These are just a few of the breathtaking scenes coming out of Israel this weekend. In what some are calling a terrorist attack as bad as 9/11, the Palestinian organization Hamas launched an all-out assault against their sworn enemies, the Israelis. Israel has already retaliated and is preparing for a full-scale counterattack. Emotions run high on both sides. What exactly happened? Who the hell is Hamas? And why do they hate Israel? Let's talk about it. This is the Vice Signal Podcast. Okay, so close to 1,000 Palestinian Hamas soldiers breached the Israeli border through Gaza and launched their attack. Now I want to pull up this map here just so we can get a little overview on exactly what we're looking at, the geography of the area. So we got Israel. The entire area is about the size of the state of New Jersey. Israel, the Israelis control all of this area here. Then we have the Palestinians who are in West Bank, even though about 500,000 Israelis also live in West Bank. That's part of the whole controversy. And then we have the Palestinian controlled area controlled by the political and militant organization Hamas in Gaza. Very small strip of land relative to other areas in the world, very tiny area, but we have a couple of million Palestinians in Gaza, and we're going to get into the whole political situation, but Hamas, which is a political organization that runs Gaza, launched this attack. The operation started as a missile strike. We always have these missile strikes coming out of Gaza or West Bank into Israel. Oftentimes when they come out of Gaza, they can only come a few dozen miles, but it seems like their rockets have become more sophisticated because they launched over 5,000 rockets in a day. A volley of hundreds of rockets at one time, and they were reaching all the way up to Jerusalem. And everybody knows about Israel's Iron Dome, but these rocket attacks, the sheer volume of these rockets overwhelm the Iron Dome, and many of these rockets hit their targets. We have all types of buildings, civilian areas, playgrounds completely destroyed. And it's still ongoing. These rocket attacks are still going on right now. And the Iron Dome is doing its best job, is deflecting a lot of them, but it can't. They're just being completely overwhelmed. It's not able to stop all of them. And we have video while the rockets were firing. Under the cover of the rockets, we have paragliders coming in from Gaza into Israeli territory because there's this wall, this fence. They have blocked out. These people are completely blocked off in the Gaza area. So these guys use paragliders to swoop in. They landed into Israeli territory and immediately started causing havoc. We had hundreds more soldiers who entered by land, entered on the ground. They found soft spots and security on the fence, bulldozed through the fence, and completely caught the security team off guard. This weekend was the holiest day in Israel. It was the holiday Yom Kippur. A lot of people who observe this holiday, they're not on electronics, they're not looking at TV, phones, people at home, people are with family. So the security detail was a bit softer than what it would normally be. Nobody was expecting anything like this to happen, even though 50 years ago, back in 1973, there was also an attack on this same holiday. But it seems like there was a massive failure in intel, the Israeli intel, because they're saying that this attack here is the largest attack against Israelis, against Jews since the Holocaust, because we have hundreds of deaths and the death toll is still going up. Hundreds of dead Israelis, hundreds of dead Jews. We got people being dragged out of tanks, soldiers being dragged out of tanks, being killed while their bodies were laying on the ground. We had them being kicked. They were being beheaded. Hamas put out videos of them beheading these people. They were kidnapping women and children, killing families. There was this one family that escaped through the roof of their house. The father got out all the children, the wife. But as he was leaving the window, he was shot. He didn't even make it. We have a woman being dragged into a car where she was bleeding through her private areas. So clearly she had been sodomized, violated horrifically, raped. And these guys have videos of children being beaten, children, hostages being beaten by other children in the Palestine Gaza area. So the whole thing is horrific. And the area where they had the largest attack was this rave. There was this music festival. A lot of young Israelis just minding their own business, dancing, enjoying themselves. And you could see some of the paragliders coming in the background while they were dancing. And a few hundreds of these Israelis were killed right there. Bodies laying all over the place, and a lot of them were kidnapped. So it was pretty bad, and Israel has already retaliated. We have airstrikes where they're destroying mosques, they're destroying intel hub centers, command centers, weapons depots. Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli prime minister, he's declared war. The state of Israel has declared full-scale war. Right now, they're mobilizing 300,000 troops. And this is on top of the 200,000 troops they have on active duty already. So Israel is looking to have 500,000 soldiers. They're going to go into Gaza, and they're planning to completely decimate the area. They said they're going to leave Gaza as a pile of ruins. But 500,000 troops for Gaza seems like overkill, because Hamas, they're not a modern military. They don't have intelligence, recon, surveillance. They don't have ships and submarines, satellites. They don't have all this modern 21st century sophistications that the top militaries have. So putting a modern military of 500,000 troops against a terrorist organization like Hamas, it seems like is overkill. So what Israel is probably going to do is have troops stationed at different areas, because to the north, they're bordered by Lebanon, and there's another terrorist organization called Hezbollah that hates Israel coming from their north, from Lebanon. So they're probably going to send troops there. They're preparing for whatever is going to happen, because historically, when Israel is attacked, they're attacked from multiple fronts. The Gaza Strip is one area. Then they've been attacked by Egypt. They've been attacked by Syria. They've been attacked through Lebanon. So they need to build up a massive army in order to guard all fronts. They're also planning a full blockade, a 100% blockade against Gaza. They already had Gaza blockaded. The people were fenced in. The resources that they were able to get were limited to what the Israelis would allow. So they're saying they're about to block everything, including humanitarian aid, food, whatever. But one problem is that Gaza and Egypt have a border. So I don't know exactly how they plan on enforcing a blockade between Egypt and Gaza. Maybe they have to negotiate something with Egypt. I don't know what Egypt is planning on doing in this particular war. But they're gearing up for a full-scale war. They've already taken back some of the territory that the Hamas militants took. And they're on the ground fighting right now. And Hamas has taken a lot of these hostages back to Gaza. So we're going to see the dynamics of this. We're going to see exactly how the Israelis run this operation while also trying to protect the lives of the civilians and trying to save the lives of those hostages. So one big component of this whole thing, something that's not talked about a lot, because for politicians it's good to keep these things ambiguous, is who the hell are these people? Who are the Israelis? What is their beef with Palestine? What's going on with Hamas? Why is all of this stuff going on? It's good for the politicians to keep this cloudy and murky. So they'll mention to the American people, they talk about it on stump speeches and all of that, but they don't really go in depth on what exactly is going on, because they don't want the American people thinking too deeply on it, because people could start thinking in ways that the politicians don't want them to think. And then a lot of people in politics or news organizations, they just assume that people know all of this anyway, when the average person, they don't go digging into this, or they don't make out time to research and see what the hell is going on. They just hear these places. Oh, this is going on over here somewhere in the world. We don't really know, but I guess it's bad and America needs to be involved. So I'm just going to do a simplified overview on what exactly is going on. You can find other videos way longer that go deep in depth. You can find reports online that go extremely deep in depth, because it's a very, very complex issue. And I'm speaking from a position of neutrality. I have nothing at stake here. I'm not involved. I'm not on the side of the Israelis, the Jews, the Muslims, the Palestinians. So I'm just a third party on the outside looking in and just giving my viewpoints. So simplified overview is, decades ago, after World War II, Israel came into existence. Israel became a country in 1948. U.S. was the first country to acknowledge the existence of the state of Israel. So these Jews had a lot of issues in Europe. We know about the Holocaust. We know what was going on in the 30s and the 40s. There are millions of Jews being killed, Jews being persecuted. And there was this thing called Zionism that was spreading, which was the idea that the Jewish people should have their own state. So they went back to the land that was once Israel thousands of years ago. They took over this land. The UN and England were heavily involved in this. But they carved out this piece of land and they said this is going to be the nation of Israel, the modern country Israel. But the problem was there were already people living there, and these people were not Jews. These people were part of the nation of Islam. These people were in Palestine, and they were also pushing for their own nation of Palestine. But after a series of wars, like I said, you can go get more deep insight into this elsewhere, but after a series of wars, Israel eventually conquered and took over and secured the area where we know as modern day Israel, and hundreds of thousands of Palestinians were pushed out. And to this day, they're compressed into the areas of the Gaza Strip, where Hamas is, where this attack initiated, and then the West Bank. And Israel, with their growing population and their belief that they shouldn't have to cede any territory to the Palestinians, a lot of them are pushing over into the West Bank area, which was designated for the Palestinians. In addition to that, the Palestinians and the Israelis also split Jerusalem down the line. They said, okay, Palestine, you'll take East Jerusalem. Israel, you'll take West Jerusalem. But now you have Israelis all over Jerusalem pushing the Palestinians further out. So from the Palestinian point of view, they're being overtaken by a bunch of Jews who just hate them and want to eradicate them. That's their point of view. The Israelis are saying, look, we're just Jewish, humble Jewish people. We just want peace. Somebody's always after us. As soon as the nation of Israel was formed, they were attacked by multiple countries. And for decades, they've been having skirmishes, either wars or skirmishes, whether it's full-blown wars with Arab nations or it's skirmishes with terrorist organizations. The Israelis are saying somebody is always out to get us, and we just need to come to peace, come to terms with the idea that we're going to be here. We're different people, but we can live in peace. They've labeled Hamas as a terrorist organization, along with the United States and its Western vassal states. Hezbollah, which is another organization, Islamic organization from Lebanon, they've also labeled them a terrorist organization. So when they get attacked by somebody like Hamas, they're saying, look, this is just full-blown terrorism because you guys are coming in here, armed militants, killing women and children, unarmed civilian. And there's a lot of truth to what Israel is saying, because look at what we just saw over the weekend. These armed militants swooped in. We have young people dancing at a rave and they get gunned down by terrorists. We have women and children in homes. These guys gunned through neighborhoods, dragging bodies out, blood all over the place, raping women, kidnapping children. You're attacking unarmed civilian population who are just trying to live their lives, mind their own business. So that is terrorism. That's full-blown act terror. And Israel is saying that Hamas is nothing more than a terrorist arm of Iran. Hezbollah and Hamas are funded by Iran, according to the Israelis. They're saying Iran is giving them weapons, training, and money, and helping them sustain themselves, and instructing them to commit acts of terror against Israel because Iran hates Israel. And we had this whole peace agreement going on. The United States was brokering some type of agreement between Saudi Arabia and Israel, and people are saying that Iran was pissed about this because they don't want any major Arab nation, especially the Saudis, to be at any type of peace with Israel. So they started this conflict. This is all speculation or unconfirmed information, but they're saying that Hamas started this whole thing over this weekend because Iran doesn't want Israel and Saudi to be close. So by causing chaos between the Jews and the Muslims over there, it can further create that rift between all of the people over there, and it can stop this possible peace or whatever between Saudi Arabia and Israel. Now, from the Palestinians' point of view, they're saying that they were there first. They've been there for centuries, since it was the Ottoman Empire, over 1,000 years. They said we've been here forever, and all of a sudden a bunch of Jews are sitting here. Tons of them come from Europe, and they just occupy territory, take territory that belonged to Palestine, killed a lot of Palestinians and pushed them out of their areas, and are now running an apartheid style system. And a lot of them have issues because a lot of these Palestinians are saying these aren't even the real Jews. These people are white people from Europe, and they're saying that they're Jewish and they're not even Middle Eastern. You're not the original Jews from thousands of years ago. This is what a lot of people are saying over there. So these people feel very suppressed. They're saying they're being treated like second-class citizens by a bunch of people with European descent. And they've been pushed into corners. They're saying the United States is backing Israel, which the United States does back Israel, gives them billions of dollars a year. They have the United States backing Israel, strengthening Israel's military while suppressing the Palestinians, and it gives the Israelis an unfair advantage in the fight, so they have no choice but to engage in acts like this. And if Israel would just leave and get out of there and give them their land, everything would be cool. That's one point of view. And some Palestinians, they're saying that the land that they have now, the West Bank and Gaza, they need their own Palestinian state, and they need it internationally recognized, and they need the Israelis to get the hell out of the West Bank. So you have a lot of emotions, a lot of passionate feelings on both sides of this issue. And like I said, I'm just speaking from a third party point of view, neutral on this. I'm not supporting Israel or Palestine. I'm neutral. Another question is, why is America so heavily involved in this? Why does America care? And there's a couple of reasons why America is so involved in this. So like I just said, America gives almost $4 billion a year to Israel's military. So when it comes to pure military power, the Palestinians are completely overwhelmed. The Palestinians are no match at all for the Israelis. The Israelis are modern military, one of the strongest militaries in the world. Very good system. And people in Gaza and Hamas, they're just relegated to doing acts like they did over the weekend, which is catching the Israelis off guard, running through the country quickly with almost 1,000 militants, killing women and children, catching Israeli military forces by surprise and killing a lot of them and parading their bodies around on the internet. But in a full-scale war, we're about to see exactly what's going on, because it seems like Israel has overwhelming firepower and Hamas is about to get wrecked. So this close tie between America and Israel started back during the Cold War era, because America didn't want the Soviets to have so much control over there in the Middle East. As part of the Soviet communist containment strategy, they had to get somebody over there where they can get on their side, because the Soviets were gaining influence on other countries in the Middle East, and America eventually got the influence of the Israelis. And even after the Cold War, America still has a vested interest in what's going on over there. For one, because they're saying Israel is a democracy. So, and it's the only democracy over there in the Middle East. So there's some common values between the two countries. But more importantly than that, trade is the big thing, because we have the Suez Canal, which is an extremely important shipping route over there in the Middle East. And the United States doesn't want instability over there. Egypt, Saudi Arabia, all these countries getting into it, you can cause issues with world trade. And even bigger than the Suez Canal is oil. We all know the whole issue with oil over there in the Middle East. And if the Middle East is just in full-blown chaos, wars going on between all these countries, terrorists running all types of things, it's going to mess up the oil trade. So the United States needs a strong ally over there to kind of balance things, because Israel, being funded by America, their Iron Dome system, their world famous missile defense Iron Dome system, funded by the Americans, their military training, their military style, the power of their military is all American based. So Israel serves as a de facto arm of the United States over there in the Middle East. So it kind of helps the United States stabilize the Middle East in some sense. It helps the U.S. prevent full-blown chaos. All of these countries hate Israel, but with the United States propping up Israel, making it extremely powerful, and by the United States letting the world know that if you mess with Israel, you mess with the United States, it calms the chaos. For example, a country like Iran has been promising to blow Israel off the map. If the United States would have just let Israel be, not got involved with Israel, not been funding Israel, Israel probably would have been overrun by these organizations by now. They held their own in a couple of wars, but Iran is getting pretty tough, and you have other strong Arab nations around there, so they can get ganged up on. Even in this whole situation, Israel is mobilizing 300,000 additional troops. The United States has sent an aircraft carrier strike group over there. They sent the USS Gerald R. Ford, which is their state-of-the-art best aircraft carrier, over there with F-16s and F-35s over there to them. So they're letting these other countries know. They're letting Iran know, look, if you get involved, you're involved with us too. So you have the Israeli ground force, 500,000 troops, and then you have the U.S. Navy over there, and the threat of U.S. sanctions and more U.S. military powers to keep these other countries at bay. So they're saying, look, just let Israel handle Hamas. Iran and whoever else is thinking about it, Hezbollah, Lebanon, don't jump in it, or we might have to come after you. And another reason why America cares so much for Israel, obviously, like I said, the oil trade and the Suez Canal are probably the two biggest ones. But another one is for religious reasons, because you have the evangelical voter bloc, the Southerners, the Christians in America, who care a lot about the state of Israel for biblical reasons. We have a lot of prophecies. We have a lot of biblical history and ties between Judaism and Christianity. A lot of people are looking at the prophecies in the Bible, and they think that this current nation of Israel is the nation that is being prophesied about. I don't know, but they're looking at this nation of Israel, and they're saying that this nation of Israel, 21st century Israel, is essential for Christianity. So a lot of politicians can play off of that, because they know, look, if we push a lot of support for Israel, if we talk about Israel a lot, if we send funds to Israel, the evangelical voter bloc is going to love this. And on top of that, you have millions of Jews in the United States. You have large Jewish lobbying organizations in DC. These Jews, through lobbying, have a lot of influence on American politics. So there are multiple reasons why the United States is involved in this. So one thing that this war over here in Israel and Gaza, one thing that I'm doing is being extremely careful with the information that I receive, because what we've learned from Ukraine and Russia is that there is a ton of propaganda out there. So you have the United States and its Western vassals, its vassal states over there in Europe. You have these countries putting out a certain narrative because they want their citizens to believe what the government wants them to believe, in order to keep the money flowing, in order to maintain a war, in order to keep the citizens from revolting and protesting too heavily against the war. So when I look at what's going on over here in Israel, and I'm hearing all these things, so we see Hamas doing horrific acts of terror. It's terrible, but I encourage people to pause. When they hear anything, just pause and think about it. Think, is this the media trying to manipulate me? Is this a message from the government, from the Department of Defense, the Department of State? Where is this messaging coming from? So start digging, find all the information that you can from multiple sources, and analyze everything. Think deeply, use your common sense, use your reason. So we do have monsters and animals out there that will kidnap children, rape women, pillage villages. So I'm not saying that didn't happen. I'm just saying be careful. When you hear information, just think deeply before you just receive it as gospel truth. Because I'm looking at this Ukrainian war. We have the Nazi Ukrainians over there. We have the Azov Battalion. And there have been reports of these guys doing similar things as Hamas. We have reports of these guys raping women and doing all types of vile things, desecrating bodies of soldiers. We have them doing executions on captured Russian soldiers who can't even fight back. We have all types of vile things coming out of there, but because all of a sudden these Nazis in Ukraine are the good guys, because the United States wants to support Nazis, all of a sudden they're cool. They're okay. All of a sudden you can post on Facebook about them. All of a sudden you can give praise to them. All of a sudden them having swastika symbols and wolf angel logos on their uniforms and all that hateful Aryan racist crap that they were spewing, it's all good now. Everything that this despicable organization, these Nazis over there in Ukraine, all these Stepan Bandera lovers, all this twisted ideology that they've been pushing, is all good now, because they're the good guys, because they're fighting for the cause of the United States. So when these wars break out, you're going to have stories from both sides. Somebody going to be demonized from the Western point of view, and it's easy to get caught up in it, and it's easy to get manipulated. So even though Hamas is a horrific organization, they're doing horrific things, I just say study the situation and dig deeper into it. So we're going to talk about some more news going on over there in Israel, how maybe Iran is involved. Did the United States help fund this terrorist attack? But first, a word from our sponsor, me, the Vice Signal Merch Store. As we discuss today's topics, remember that your values and your ideas can be expressed by the things that you wear. Check out our thoughtfully curated merchandise celebrating traditional values and government restraint. Explore our unique collection starting with the Supreme Style tinfoil hat, a statement piece that embodies our commitment to critical thinking and pushing back against the norm. Make a statement with the Free Trump shirt, boldly displaying the captivating mugshot of the former president, which instantly became the most famous picture in the world. At the Bicycle Merch Store, we're more than just products. We're a community dedicated to celebrating and defending traditional values. Sign up for promotions and receive 10% off your very first order. Don't miss out on these exceptional items. Embrace tradition, champion freedom, and shop now at tvsmerch.com. A few weeks ago, the United States gave Iran $6 billion. They're saying that the State Department, they're saying that this money already belonged to Iran and the United States was just holding it, having it frozen to punish Iran for supporting terrorism and not capitulating to the will of the United States. But they released a couple of hostages. They had 5 hostages. And in order for the United States to get these hostages, they gave Iran $6 billion. $1.2 billion per hostage. So weeks later, here we go, a massive terror attack. We know the history between Hamas and Iran, Hezbollah and Iran. Hamas and Hezbollah, their leaders are already saying, thank you to Iran. Iran helped us with this. Iran helped us fund this. Iran helped us put this together. People are saying, well, the United States is complicit in this because you just gave them $6 billion and then they turn around and use a lot of this money to conduct a major terrorist attack against Israel. Then you have Anthony Blinken. Let's look at what he had to say about it.
Mr. Secretary, as you know, Republican candidates have been criticizing the administration for the deal that you just struck with Iran to release 5 American detainees in exchange for some Iranian detainees, as well as releasing $6 billion. Your officials have already said Iran has not yet seen a cent of that money. But how do you respond to Republican critics who say that that deal funded the attacks on Israel?
Well, it's very unfortunate that some are playing politics at a time when so many lives have been lost and Israel remains under attack. Here are the facts. The facts are that these were not U.S. taxpayer dollars. These were Iranian resources that had accumulated from the sale of its oil that were stuck in a bank in South Korea from day one, under our law, under our sanctions, going back many years. It's always had the right to use those funds for humanitarian purposes, for food, for medicine, for medical equipment. The funds were moved from one bank to another where it could more easily do that, but under the close supervision of the U.S. Treasury Department.
Mr. Secretary, I don't want...
No, it's important. It's important to get these facts right because here's what's going on. Again, not a single cent has been spent from that account. When any money is spent from that account, it can only be used for medical supplies, for food, for medicine. And those who are saying otherwise are either misinformed or misinforming, and it's wrong either way.
What do you say about the argument that money is fungible? So Iran may have known this money is coming and used other funds to help fund this attack that happened.
Iran has unfortunately always used and focused its funds on supporting terrorism, on supporting groups like Hamas, and it's done that when there have been sanctions. It's done that when there haven't been sanctions, and it's always prioritized that. And again, I come back to the proposition that these funds have always been under the law available to Iran to use for humanitarian purposes.
So Anthony Blinken, he's over there trying to defend it, talking about what this money was used for, humanitarian aid. They couldn't use it for terrorism. Well, like I said, when I first saw this, I said, this money is fungible. So they may not have access to the $6 billion at this moment, but they know the $6 billion is coming, which means they can take money from elsewhere, just move the money around, and they can fund this terrorist attack. They said, well, we didn't have the money, but we have $6 billion coming in, so we'll take money from this humanitarian aid that we were going to fund, and we'll move it over to our Attack Israel fund, And then when the money from the U.S. comes in, we'll just restock on a humanitarian fund. And these people don't want to see it that way. And we have Republican candidates like Nikki Haley. She's coming out here going after Blinken them because they don't want to say it. Let's look at what she had to say.
Administration for this attack, as I just discussed with the secretary, citing the deal they made with Iran. You just saw the Secretary of State effectively say there is no link between that deal and the horrific attacks that unfolded yesterday. Do you think it was irresponsible of your rivals to level that allegation without any evidence or proof?
I actually think it was irresponsible for Secretary Blinken to say that the $6 billion doesn't weigh in here. I mean, let's be honest with the American people and understand that Hamas knows and Iran knows they're moving money around as we speak because they know $6 billion is going to be released. That's the reality. When I was at the United Nations, you saw that when those planes full of cash sent by Obama to Iran, I went to the International Atomic Energy Agency. I met with them. What happened was those funds were sent to Hezbollah in Lebanon. They were sent to Hamas in Gaza. They were sent to the Houthis in Yemen. They go and spread terrorism every time they get a dollar. It doesn't go to the Iranian people. It does go to terrorist attacks. And Secretary Blinken's just wrong to imply that this money is not being moved around as we speak
and yet,
to
Ambassador,
hurt those that love freedom.
And yet, Ambassador, there's just no proof of that yet. This is just the hours after that immediate attack. Is it irresponsible to level that charge when you really don't have any evidence of that at this point in time?
The evidence is, look at what the Iranian people have done to freedom-loving people around the world. Look at what the Iranian people, the Iranian regime has done to threaten Israel over the years. To think that they're not moving money around is irresponsible to say that to the American people. They are moving money around to threaten those they hate. They hate Israel. They hate America. They are going to continue to use this. It was wrong to release the $6 billion, but let me tell you what else was wrong. It was wrong to go and have that debacle in Afghanistan. It was wrong to waive sanctions on Iran that gave them even more money. Money has been flowing to Iran, and that is the problem, because when Iran gets money, they use it for hate.
So Nikki Haley, she kind of has a lust for Palestinian and Iranian blood anyway, because she's ready to go to war. She's not going to be on the ground fighting. Her son is not going to be on the ground fighting. She's rich. She's chilling. She's one of these warmongering neocon types who's itching for battle. But the reaction here in America, the reaction of the American people, because there have been protests out there, the reactions of some of these presidential candidates, the politicians in DC, we're going to get to all of that in the next video. So if you enjoyed today's episode, leave a like, share it, and I'll see you guys next time.